Okay, and we are live, and I'm doing this a lot earlier than I normally do these because I want to get one done. Most days I want to try to do one every day. My schedule's going to be a little conflicted later today, so I'm like, let's go ahead and try to get one in. Although, since it's outside of the normal time, people won't be expecting it. So I'm going to see how quickly we get people in here and see if we get questions or not. There's already at least one person watching. Usually about the 60-second mark is usually when I see a lot more rolling in here. So we'll see what happens. And see if we can get some questions. I'm going to chill. Until then. Relax, get water in until we get some questions up. Yeah, I did do that video on body shaming yesterday. It's only got about 700 views or so, but a lot of people appreciated it. A lot of people appreciated it. I always think it's funny when people talk back and forth and they'll say things like, well, Jason has a better physique than 99% of guys his age. I'm like, I'm not trying to brag because I don't care that much about physique, but I have been in public. I don't think it's even for my age. I mean, 99% of people walking around, even 25-year-olds, are not in shape. They're just not. Not in America. Maybe in other places, but here they're not. So, realistically, I occasionally see someone as jacked as I am, or even in better shape, but they're very rare. Like, they stand out because they're enough of an exception. All right, so let's see if we get questions. I don't see any questions so far. I'm just gonna wait. Chill. People are watching and then they're trickling back out, but I'm like, guys, you guys gotta ask questions if you want involvement. Hi, TKS. You won't be able to ask a question for 60 seconds now. But posting's good. If you guys will click the likes, also it'll make it appear in more people's feed. If you guys who are trickling in could click like and start asking questions, it will help get people into here, and then we can get this actually flowing and discussing stuff. Of course, I expect everyone to be polite. I will be polite to you, but I'm not going to put up with trolling or nonsense at all. We're running a zero tolerance policy on that in these. I have zero tolerance there. Even some of the questions, the weirder ones, I might need to just start getting rid of that. Because this really needs to be about training and nutrition, stuff like that, right? Because that's what this channel is about. That is what this channel is about. All right, come on, guys. There's people watching. Get them questions. I guess y'all just want to watch me drink water. Do that. If nobody has questions, I guess people want to watch me drink water. I don't know anything. That sure is some good water. All right. I didn't come in with a separate topic. I didn't expect a live at this time. Well, the thing is, with doing them at this time, it's the time that I could work it in today, right? So it's kind of like, do it now or you aren't going to get one. Well, Callum, don't ask silly ass trolling questions, right? I mean, Callum, it's not hard. Like if you saw something on a troll channel hating on me and you asked something about that, you see what I mean? Or you start asking about my personal life, not training related stuff, but start asking about my family and my neighbors, and or you make weird sex comments, right? It's pretty straightforward. Do you still have eggs? No, I eat a low-fat diet. Hey, coach, is there any value in rotating in lat pull downs? Well, I don't think you should probably shouldn't take rows out. I mean, lat pull downs can have their place, but I think rows are more important. Mackie, that's very, very old. No, I don't stand by that at all. I was going off some old data, but I mean, realistically, it's because of their calorie density and so on. Well, Callum, I mean, you could, but I may not be the best person to answer your general life advice questions. And people ask weird stuff, that they obviously know I have zero knowledge of. Like if you start asking me how to invest your stocks, you're going to get a stupid ass answer, Mackie, no, high fat foods are not the most anabolic. Yes, all calories are anabolic, but fat in general is not the best thing you could be eating. Right? Once a minimum protein is reached, it's almost carbohydrates become anabolic. I mean, I could make the case for white rice being an absurdly anabolic food in that context. So, again, get up to speed. Don't watch a video I made 8 years ago and then ignore stuff I made in the last 2 years. Or you're going to say, well, this conflicts. Well, yeah, because this is updated information. I have been wrong in the past. It happens. Do you think pull-ups and dumbbell rows are enough to work the back for novice and early intermediate? Where's your hip hinging? I don't see anything about deadlifts. Coach, I'm in the grocery store right now. What kind of eggs do you recommend? I don't recommend eggs these days. I don't think dietary fat's particularly anabolic. I mean, eat whatever eggs you want, dude. I don't know what your budget is. I don't know what the egg quality is where you live. I can't possibly answer that question. Do you ever program on front squats on conjugate or just goblet squats and single stuff? I mean, I've occasionally programmed front squats for people. Not that common. It's more likely to be a max effort lift, right? And ideally, I'd rather them have an SSB than front squat. If they have a safety squat bar and they're not going to do cleans, I mean, we can make the case for never doing a front squat. Is 100 kilogram overhead press impressive? Well, you need to look at strength charts, right? Because these things are not really subjective. I don't think overhead pressing itself, unless it's a crazy strong lift, is particularly impressive. It's the smallest of the big exercises. It doesn't use that many muscles. But, if you're like the Richard guy who I watched do a 500-pound overhead press, okay, that's crazy, Start talking 200 plus kilograms on a overhead press, yeah, that's impressive. Do you train early in the morning or afternoon? I train in the mornings. Coach, if I ran conjugate 3 days a week instead of 4 due to a busy work schedule, how much gains am I leaving on the table compared to running 4 days a week? I don't know. I don't know how much gains you're leaving on the table. A little bit. Is it 1%? Is it 30%? I don't know. You're leaving a little bit of gains on the table. But I'm not going to be able to quantify that. How much arm size left on the table if someone doesn't do single arm work? No idea. Maybe a little bit. That's the thing you guys have to remember with that sort of question. You say, how much is being lost? It's as if people can really tell you that, like, do you think that there's a study on this to where they've taken 10,000 people and compared X and Y, and we know it's on average 11.1%, just keep that in mind, guys. I wear earbuds so that it doesn't record music on my camera if I want to leave the sound on and I lose monetization. Callum, it's pretty straightforward. Jason, what do you think is the future of influencers in the entire YouTube platform? I have no idea. I don't know. What do you think it is? How can I contact you for coaching? If you look under every single video in the description, it says contact me here for coaching. So go to any one of my videos, any of them, put up in the last few months, last year, 6 years, whatever. Let's go to the nearest video. Look underneath where it says contact me here. Go to my Facebook and shoot me a DM. There's a sticky at the top of the Facebook with full details. The stuck thread at the top of how to apply and everything. You said in an older video, yeah, that's not applicable. No, we don't know how much it gives. And in some cases, you might lose size. Again, you're talking maybe novice lifters. But Mackie, who cares about novice lifters? We already know how to get novices to intermediate really fast, right? We don't need to waste a whole lot of time on that. Challenge sometimes. Occasionally, I like to leave the sound on. Occasionally, if I don't want to voice over, say, one of the reels of a top set, I will leave the sound on. Yeah. Is it true about the ratio of 2 pulls for every push? No, and it can't possibly be true. I want you to think that through for a moment. So if you were to do that, then basically you're going to overtrain your pulls and get overuse issues, or you're going to undertrain your pushing. Unless you stop at exactly maybe 8 to 10 on the pressing and then do really high volume for pulling. Okay. No, it doesn't even make sense from a development perspective. The reason people used to say that is because a lot of people don't do any pulling. They do no upper back work their first year or two in the gym because they're noobs who don't know any better. And that area gets underdeveloped, and it's to catch them back up. That's the only reason that advice was created. It's not a good general rule, though. I've heard people say you can get close to max side growth just from rows and pull-ups and bench. Do you stand by this? I think that most people can. I think a lot of people can. Pretty close to. Is there any good reliable signals that indicate that a training session was effective? Is it well written? Is it a well-written program in which you took sets to the set quality that is required inside the effective volume range? That's all you need to know, right? There you go. There's been a lot of people on YouTube pushing single set training as an option like DC training. Never done it, but look into it. Here's what I'm going to say about DC training. I was very active in the lifting world and the online community when DC training was popularized. If you're going to take part of it, you can't just do part of it, meaning you got to do the drugs. All right. So if you're going to do DC training, you have to do the cycling for pennies. DC training was never intended for low dose steroid users. Okay, let's put it all into context with what Dante wrote. And I'm not saying DC's that great. I knew a lot of guys who made great gains on DC training back in the day. But they also did cycling for pennies, which was written as part of the same guide. So, Lacey, are you going to run 20 times the therapeutic dose of testosterone for a man? What are intermediate numbers on squat, bench, deadlift? There are charts that can tell you this. What is the minimum volume you would recommend per muscle for an intermediate if they have a busy life and are fine with some about 6 to 9 might be the minimum if it's very high quality sets. Right? Do you think periodization is unnecessary for hypertrophy? I think periodization is unnecessary. Notice I didn't even answer your hypertrophy part. Let me go back. I don't need to get to the last part of your question. Do you think periodization is unnecessary? Yes, I think periodization is unnecessary. Does overhead press really work the same muscles as bench? No, it doesn't work them significantly more. A hair more, but rows actually work all those muscles better than the overhead press does. So if you're doing rows and you're benching, the overhead press isn't really adding anything to the table in terms of new muscle stimulus. Unrelated lifting, how do you stay focused on your task throughout the day? I don't know, you just do. I have no idea. I thought you had your own numbers because Callum, it's kind of a range and there's charts. No, I don't think that I need my own special standards that are Blaha standards that are not recognized by the rest of the strength and conditioning world. I don't think that that's necessary. Yeah, pretty straightforward. There's charts. Go check it out, brother. You said that due to diminished returns, 2 workouts a week. Z, are you trying to pin down exact percentages on stuff like that? No, you can't pin that down like that. And it doesn't matter what Blaha said in 1472, back before the British had discovered North America. None of that's necessary. Let's just go with common sense. You can't pin that down as an exact percentage. And you really can't. Isn't conjugate a form of periodization? You're talking about something different. Conjugate is periodization in the sense of it organizes rep ranges. But it's not really what you would think of as true periodization because everything's done concurrently. You're not separating stuff into blocks and phases because you're doing hypertrophy work every day, right? Right? You're doing it every day. What you're really separating is the max work and speed work, but they're still done inside the same training week. So it's a form of concurrent periodization, but it's not broken into phases. And you're not dealing with stuff like accumulation phases and then mesocycles and things. I think periodization is mostly voodoo. I agree with Viata on that. I agree with Viata there. It's mostly voodoo that coaches use for placebo effect on their lifters. Oh, caffeine, because it's not true periodization in that sense. Meaning there can be some benefit to separating speed work and max work, not on the exact same day. Does that make sense? Because there's a certain fatigue issues, and it's also an issue of recovering from the max work. It's organized inside of a training week around that idea, but you're still doing hypertrophy work every single day. And a lot of periodization, you'll go weeks and weeks at a time without doing a 10 rep set. Okay, do you understand that? Are most guys at the top IPF natty? No, why would they be? Is sleep so essential for gains? Why do I sometimes break all-time PRs on 4 hours of sleep? You break them after one night of 4 hours of sleep. How well are you recovering the next day if you only sleep 4 hours again? Callum, I don't run either one. You see my vlogs, right? You see my vlog. I generally do a top set followed by a bunch of hypertrophy work on a 4-day upper lower. Do you eat pork? Nutritional taste preference for eating? I don't actually care for pork that much. Although pepperoni pizza is my favorite cheat food. So, I mean, I could say that pork in that context is one of my favorite foods, but it's because it's pepperoni. I don't actually like the taste of pork outside of that. Is there any program type of training that you would consider to be almost as good as conjugate? I mean, Darko, I think for people who don't understand programming and to do something like what I'm doing right now, conjugate is probably their easiest method to go with. If you're not going to spend a lot of time studying programming and understanding it, conjugate is kind of a cheat code, an easy fix for you. From your experience, what percentage of fitness influencers are drug-free? I think it's 5%. I think it's about 0%, give or take one, plus or minus 1%. What training style is it though? I would call it lifting. I would call it powerlifting and hypertrophy. I don't know. It's certainly not periodized. If 1 in 3 male gym goers use stuff, then why are so many of them weak, small? Well, because they don't train hard, they don't train right, and they don't use as much as you think. Here's your thing, Mackie, when we talk about bodybuilders and people using amounts so they can get away with anything, that doesn't mean that the gym rat is using that amount. Okay. You'd be shocked how many guys who, when you start asking them about their gear, you realize that they don't use that much. Hell, guys actually cycle. You know, see serious ass bodybuilders and people cycling off. You see them doing that shit. I dropped down to 500 milligrams for a short time and call that cycling off. Right? In fact, didn't Bumstead say that his off cycle is 500 milligrams? That's what he does between blasts. He stays on 500. Thoughts on legumes? Never heard you recommend them. I don't really think about. They're just food. They're just a carb source. Is an exercise rotation for repetition effort also a form of periodization? Not really, no. Thoughts on purging after cheat meals? That sounds like a serious eating disorder. So my coach writes training typically gets heavier and fewer reps as it goes through the weeks and lightens back up and rebuilds itself. Isn't it periodization? Yes, Lacey, that is periodization. Do you drink alcohol? No, I have been sober for over 4 years. I have not had a drink. How did you get gear in the UK, online or in person? I'm not going to tell you again. Now you're asking me to teach you how to find stuff. I'm not going to do that on my channel. Sorry. All right. Just not going to happen. I think that's a good idea. Do you plan to get off gear? No, it's a lifetime commitment, Darko. It's a lifetime commitment. At least testosterone is. And that's what I tell guys. That should be one of your risk analysis that you go through when you decide to go on. If you ever say, do I see a point in my life where I'm going to want to come off? If the answer is yes, then gear is probably not right for you, right? I thought gear without training builds more muscle. Well, it does build some muscle, but we don't know that takes it to the advanced states, Mackie. And how many of those guys are cycling back off? Okay. Lacey, you've gotten strong because you're lifting weights. The point people miss when they look at certain things they're doing, they're like, I did X, Y, and Z and it worked. But you didn't get the results because you did X, Y, and Z. You got the results because you did X. Right? You lifted weights with progressive overload, therefore you got stronger. You did so in a manner that was inside your recoverable volume, and you ate and slept sufficiently. Therefore, you got stronger. But let me ask you the next question. How do you know that you wouldn't have gotten stronger 17.5% faster doing something different than what you did? Thoughts on Yohimbe, 2 times the rate of fat? I don't think that it works that way. I think Yohimbe is an okay fat burner. You're not going to lose fat twice as fast. Keep in mind, rates of fat oxidation during exercise doesn't tell you the full story. Because what if the oxidation shifts after the exercise? No, I don't follow Dr. Peter Adia. Thoughts on taurine research that claims it can possibly. It seems to have some gut health benefits. Good guy, I'm not going to tell you what times I am doing client interviews. Like you don't get my daily schedule. I'm sorry. After all your years of research, concerning nutrition, do you believe that calories are still key? Do you believe that macronutrient ratios affect body composition? Dan, let's ask another question. Those are two completely separate things. It's still calories in, calories out. I've never said all calories in produce the same all calories out. I don't think any reasonable person thinks that. Okay? In other words, if I add a ton of carbohydrates to my diet and thermic effect goes way up and T4 to T3 conversion goes up, did my calorie out dramatically increase? Yes, even though it might be the same calories in as if I had eaten 2,000 of those carb calories as fat. Okay? Do you understand where we're going? As far as body fat gains, yes, the content of your calories matters. Scale weight changes are calories in versus calories out in the context that you understand that what you put in does affect what comes out. Jason, I was finally able to catch one of these for a second anyways. I want to piggyback on the last question about alcohol. I don't think you should drink. I don't think alcohol is really part of a fitness lifestyle. Darko, I've answered that before in previous lives, and I don't want to keep hashing into it. For legal purposes, I was told by people to say that. I was given legal advice to say that on my channel. It wasn't true. I followed sound legal advice, and I think it was a very, very good idea. And I'm not going to go into the full backstory of why I needed to do it. It involved police and everything else, and trolls. So it was the wise choice to do. All right. Mike Azurtel says varying volume every week builds more muscle. I don't think there's proof of that. If an academic asked you to participate in a research, would you? Research of what type and what way? You need to be specific. Has your progress stalled recently? I don't know that my progress has stalled, Caffeine. Didn't I just hit a deadlift rep PR last week? My benching has stalled because I am not gaining size fast enough. I need more chest and I need more tricep. Keep in mind, I made an enormous strides as my shoulder health improved. So then I caught up, and now it's going to be a fight. Thoughts on the supplement? And man, I've never heard of it. Thomas says, I agree. Just wanted to hear someone say it. Thanks. Is one glass of red wine per day healthy? No amount of alcohol is ever healthy. If steroids are illegal, how do people get away with saying they use stuff on the internet? Well, I don't know, guys. It's a nuanced question. You said before you knew some world level powerlifters are natural. How do you know this to be true? Becky, that's a great question. Do I know it for an absolute fact? No, I don't. Okay, that's the interesting thing. You can step back and assess that, hey, someone... I'm just going to get rid of this guy. Anyone who thinks that an influencer is natural or that they bench more than me who doesn't, I don't know what to tell you. You have no proof that he benches more than me. Because I've seen the clips that people sent me. I don't see any reps. It's been 0 reps so far. So you get to go. So back to that point, you don't ever know that anyone is natural unless you watch them go to the bathroom. So if you have a boyfriend who claims to be drug free and he's jacked, you don't know that he's drug free if he ever goes and takes a shit without you. Like, unless you work with them, you go to the bathroom with them, you're stuck at the hip, you don't know that someone is natural. And that is true. You actually don't know. We can assess in some cases that it might be reasonable that that person is, but that's it. You don't actually know, right? You don't actually know. Do you think it's going to be easier to be the strongest you've ever been while pushing 60? I don't know about pushing 60. Is there any type of person who you would actually recommend to people who struggle to get enough calories from carbohydrates? That's when fats become useful. Would you ever consider squatting in wraps? No, not worth it. The wear and tear on the knees to me. No. You mean 50? Yeah, closing in on 50, I think so. There's going to reach a point, though, where it's not going to happen. You've also said some gifted people have benched 500. I think there have been some people who benched 500 drug free. Now, a couple things to consider. They're usually fat. Okay, number one, they're usually fat. Number two, they're genetically gifted. Magnus, there's no guarantee that that's going to keep you online. That's the problem. There's no guarantee of that. HCC is great for getting your sperm count back up, though, while you're on, assuming that goes down. But it's not going to guarantee that those things stay on. And it's really a pain in the ass. Like, you really want to mess with HCG all the time? You want to deal with the additional side effects, the additional pinning, the hassle around it. It's a lot to deal with. Keep in mind, HCG is pretty high side effect. It's higher side effect than most of the stuff you'd be taking. What rate of weight gain would you consider recommending for a skinny novice running SS? 2, maybe 3 pounds a month. You mentioned triceps have a higher recovery volume threshold than chest. It sounds really interesting. What studies? I don't have studies handy. You can dig them up though. I've seen a few over the years. No, I'm not of Nordic descent. I'm Slavic. Is it better to have squat reps and training be convincingly below parallel in preparation for powerlifting meets, or depth sensors depend on what the side judge you have? Probably a good idea. Yeah. It's true. Judges can be very, very strict. All right. Hi, Coach. I hope you're doing well. I just have one question. I hit 255 for a bench this week. Is 270 possible by the end of the year for me? And how did you hit 315? I bulked my way to 315 originally. No, it's probably possible to hit 275 this year, depending on where you are. How does Schwarzenegger get his big chest? What was his secret technique? Chest pressing. This may be pointless. Yeah, it's how would legalization affect? I think people would have better health outcomes, but I don't think any records would be broken as a result, like at any faster rate than they do, because they're all using drugs now. Jason Lutham healed my hamstring. Glad to hear it. I don't cite studies because, number one, a lot of my videos are a month or 2 or 3 old by the time they come up, and I'm simply discussing oftentimes research. Number two, I'm not in school anymore. I'm not required to cite sources, so I don't give a shit. Number three, I got strikes in the past for linking studies. I don't care enough anymore to risk the strikes to save people trouble from Googling studies themselves. It's not worth it to me. I quite frankly don't care enough. If you guys really care about the studies, you'll go find them. It's not that hard. You have access to Google just like I do. People will disagree with me, but I think it's more psychologically healthy for the average lifter to believe that fitness influencers are natural. No, I don't think it is. I think it's deceptive. Should hinge to the bar on deadlift or should just bend over and then align my back? You should wedge into the bar. You need to drive your hips forward. Mackie, I've got plenty of videos discussing optimal protein intakes. It's somewhere in the range of 1.5 to 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight. What are your go-to exercises for quad hamstring development for someone who trains at home? Single leg exercises for quads. Hamstrings, probably in that case, good mornings. You know, if you don't have glute ham raises and stuff, good mornings, RDLs. Any plans for new? You made a video saying if progressive overload is present, does it truly matter what program and natty runs? You said it. I'm not saying it doesn't matter. Mackie, I don't like people paraphrasing me, by the way. That's one of my pet peeves. Okay. If you do not quote the entire 5 minutes of video, it's not an accurate quote. So I've never said it doesn't matter. Saying that they will make gains, it would be true. But to say it doesn't matter at all, come on, that's a paraphrase. Yeah, that's a good question. I don't even know if this is the regular Darko, because this guy sure is being a little pushy, isn't he? Let me look and see if this is a new account. I'll find out. See if I need to ban this guy. What do we got? Who is this guy? No, it looks like the same Darko. No, just thought I would check. What's your opinion on his natty strength limit? I don't think it works that way. Coach, best staple foods for bulking, having trouble hitting 200 grams of protein. Well, if you're struggling to hit 200 grams of protein and you don't need 200 grams of protein, then maybe you should fill those calories with something less satiating than protein. Okay, if you're bulking and you only weigh 180 or 200 pounds, do you actually need 200 grams of protein? If someone's below 1 grams per kilogram of protein in the bulk, is it really going to impact gains that much? It might impact it a small amount. Magnus, well, it's not just aromatase. Think about the other things that happens with HCG. It's not purely through aromatase that it's potentially elevating things like E2. Okay. It's elevating it potentially through other pathways. But then you're getting into the issue of you're going to run an aromatase inhibitor. Aromatase inhibitors are a problem from a side effect issue, a health issue. Aromatase inhibitors are worse than most anabolics for you by far, if you were to compare the health risks. So what are you going to do? Now you're going to add an aromatase inhibitor to run this HCG. You know, think about that for a moment. Just something to think about. Could you briefly elaborate? I'm not sure what you want to know. I eat a lot of carbs. I'm eating extremely high carb, low fat. All right, guys. So we've reached about 40 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and wind this down. So I hope it's been informative. I love all of you guys and gals, and I will talk to you next time. All right, stay tuned for more of these.